So while my mother was very, very actively involved in Yiddish, I was not. I never went to her classes. I had very young children, and I had my own life and my own career. I did not go on to do my PhD that I was supposed to do. I decided to do something very practical, and I went to law school. And I started practicing law in a way that would give me time with my family. So I ended up doing this family law, which was awful. But at the same time, because I knew French and I had articled for the Ontario government, I started translating legal documents from French into English for our Ministry of the Attorney General here in Ontario. So I had my own little niche of French into English, and it was freelance. So I could do it, and eventually I said, I'm just going to do this. And I've always wanted to draw and paint, and I always did draw and paint. And I said, I'm really going to get into my art seriously, which I did. Sylvia Lustgarten ended up in the same, coming to the same open studio where I used to go to paint from the model. These things are done from live models, by the way. So Sylvia was the director of the Yiddish committee at the time. And she was always talking about Yiddish and Yiddish and Yiddish. And I say, Sylvia, I am concentrating on my painting. I can't think about this right now. And she was so excited about all these things that she was doing, and I was really not. And then what happened was that she persuaded me to attend the first conference, the Yiddish Women's Voices that Frida Foreman had organized. And I didn't know Frida at the time. And so she persuaded me to come, and I said, okay. And I had a studio actually near the Oise at the time. So I attended the whole thing, and I was just blown away. Here were all these women, and young women, and who were interested in Yiddish. There were two factions at that conference. I don't know if Frida told you much about it, but there were the religious part, the women that were interested in reforming the liturgy and the synagogue and stuff like that, which I knew nothing about. It didn't interest me at all. And then the Yiddish part of it, which were all the social activists and you know, so. And it was really very exciting because of the women that came to speak and the women that were there from all over the place, and especially the Yiddish literature. And finally, after a few years of Sylvia trying to persuade me to join her Yiddish, the reading group where they were reading these Yiddish writers, and that eventually became the Found Treasures, I finally, after that conference, I started to go. So I did that. I was involved with that. And then Sylvia said to me, you know, there's going to be this Yiddish program in Vilna, and you really should go. And I sort of dismissed it. And that started to catch my imagination because my grandmother had come from Lithuania. And I said, well, wouldn't it be wonderful? I'll go to Lithuania. I'll see where my grandmother was born. I'll be able to sketch all these places in Lithuania. It'll be just great. And I eventually decided to go at the last minute, and I went. And that was wonderful. Lithuania, for me, there were so many things that were familiar. Well, first of all, the food in the cafeteria. That was the first thing, like that morning after all the jet lag and everything. Ellie actually had been to Lithuania, and she had arranged for this man that she had been a guide for her there. And she helped me. I arranged for him to pick me up at the airport. And he found an apartment that I shared with somebody else. And so he brought us to the university the first day just to show us where it was. and we went into the cafeteria. And they had blintzes, and they had, I forget what else, but everything was familiar that they had. And it just, the whole atmosphere, there was a familiarity maybe from the reading that I had done and the Yiddish stories that I had translated. It all felt very familiar.